Hello, everyone. I have not been around in so motherfucking long. I took a hiatus. I grew up. I caught COVID. I almost died. Thought my penis shrunk. Everything that came with COVID. I don't know if y'all heard about that news with COVID apparently shrinks your penis. Anyways, I was hella paranoid about that. But anyways, we are back. This is Breaking Down the Breakdown with me, Steven Diego, and we have, every single time that I do this, I always say, we have a special guest. Well, because we always have a special guest. All of our guests are special here. And today is no different. We have a really good friend of ours who is a fellow streamer of mine, fellow musician. We have Nate! Nate! Hi.
Hi.
Or you can call him Boy Wonder Nate. Right? It is Boy Wonder, right? On Twitch. I'm going to get Nate to introduce himself to y'all so that you guys can get better acquainted. But today's episode is going to be, it's not something I've ever done before. It's a topic that I have never touched upon before because I feel like a lot of people, it's hard for them to speak about this topic, this specific topic. And Nate over here, was brave enough to be like, you know what? Let me tell you my story. This is my story. And look at his face. He's sorry, podcasters. I know you guys can't see this right now, but he is like wondering, like, what did I sign up for again? Wait a minute. Hold on. I really hope he remembers why we are talking today. But this is Nate. All right, Nate, introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm Nate. I feel like most people, if you're watching the stream, you would just probably know me or know of me, in Steven's chat as Boy Wonder Nate. I also do stream, Um, and I also write music, and I write a lot. I have a lot of creative outlets that get my juices flowing. Um, the only one that I cannot really do is visual art. But if you want a good ass stick figure, hit me up. You can commission me for a good stick
I
figure.
heard dick
Figure.
figure,
Figure?
but I am
Figure?
just deaf. I was like a good ass dick, and I was like figure. That was a double whammy. Don't know what that meant. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I thought that really introduced you perfectly. I thought it was flawless. Thank you for that, Nate. I'm dead. Well, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I want to talk about certain things. Now, a lot of us, we have complaints. I will say complaints about growing up. And a lot of us came from a very difficult childhood. All of our stories growing up, obviously, they're very different, but we can somehow relate to each other. When I spoke to Nate about certain things, there is one, I feel like this is one of those topics that none of my friends, none of the people I've been acquainted with in my 33 years of life had been able to be open about or talk about. Hey, you looking around like you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm nervous now. Do you know what we're talking about today?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just thinking.
Okay. It's like, I was like, I am so scared. Did I just set this man up? Anywho, so I do just want to ask, with today's topic, it's going to be solely focused on, I'm guessing it was your mother, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still is, but yeah.
Yeah. And that, I love the still is part. I feel like that is very important because for a lot of us, and this is, look, I did not bring Nate onto this show so that you guys can feel like terrible human beings for seemingly exploding and exaggerating your issues with your parents. That's not the case at all. I brought Nate to the show to kind of ground all of us, to help us understand that everyone struggles with their parents. It's very unique to them, and I feel like having having conversations with different individuals about different, parental traumas that we've had. Some people tend to judge others when they say, "Oh yeah, there's this, there's that," and then this happens, and then they're just kind of like, "Well, it's not as bad as me," right? And this is the reason why I asked Nate to be on this show, because I want everyone to just have that moment of being able to empathize with each other, specifically today with Nate, but with each other after this conversation. Um, Now, Nate, I do want to ask, what was it like for you growing up? What was your childhood like?
My childhood was really simple, I think. Um, pre double digits, so like 10 and before it was fine. I grew up in a military family, and so um my dad was always traveling, um and it was just me and my sisters. I'm the only like boy in my family, and like in um my dad's side of the family, I'm the only boy, so I'm like the heir to this last name that I
Right.
have. Um, but um, things just like really hit the fan when I was like 11, and it like didn't feel normal. Um, but like all the way from like 11 to I was in college. Um, I did not. It was like slowly becoming aware of what the situation was with my mother.
What, if I may interject, what would you have described at the time in comparison to other children or other people growing up
I
as
didn't
normal?
know. I didn't know. I thought my entire life was normal.
Okay.
Like, as a child, like the only perspective you have is yours, right?
Right.
And I just thought my life was completely normal until I became an adult, like 18, 19. And I would talk with like my friends and my mentors.
Hmm.
Um, I remember having a dinner with my college mentor. He was my music history professor. And he was my mentor because like he was like the first I felt like to me successful like gay person who was married that I knew. And I was like, "Oh wow, like you're an example for some people. Maybe not for me now,
Hmm.
but like back then maybe."
Okay.
And I was like but I was like telling him we were just talking about like a lot of things, and he was like, "Your life is not normal. Your life is extremely
Yeah.
it's extreme."
Yeah, it's like, can you imagine that? You're like, just somebody just fucking comes up and tell you, like, no, that is not a universal experience for people's childhood.
I was like, "Oh, okay. Okay, okay, okay."
So how did you feel when you got that news that it's like, wait a minute, like how did that make you feel?
It's interesting because okay, so as you, I've what I've come to realize is that as you age, um, and you become more, what's the word, familiar and able to recognize, um, what types of trauma you have or have undergone, and you're able to put a name to a behavior, um, or symptoms and stuff like that.
Right.
You like the trauma catches up to you. Like one day I remember because if you knew me when I was in my early 20s and like late teens, you would probably say that I was like the happiest person ever. Um, and I mean I feel I still try to have like a really lighthearted demeanor. Um,
I think so, yeah.
but uh but at some point I became more aware and kind of more self-aware, and it really broke me, um that my that I the trauma really catches up to you. It like caught up to me in ways like I was having different types of um, friendships and romantic relationships, and um, like I guess I tried my best to like hold it in, but it was like really seeping out of me and affecting my relationships and like mm, how I behaved and interacted with my partners and things like that.
I
Yeah.
I just want to ask,
Yeah.
was there, aside from somebody alerting you and your mind,
Hmm.
was there any other trigger for the awakening of the trauma and having it catch up to you? Because it's like what you said, you were pretty, like you were pretty happy. Like it's as if nothing was wrong until somebody had pointed out that actually almost everything had gone wrong.
Well, in the back of my head, I mean, I'm sorry for people who don't know, but like my mom for for the past, what, 2016-ish years has like, or was like, a drug addict, um, particularly, meth. But, um, it's hard because like you say that they're like a recovering addict now, but like
Right.
still an addict, you know? Um, but, um, I think when the earliest, I mean, it always felt unusual, you know? Like her erratic behavior felt unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But um, when it felt most apparent is when I had brought my boyfriend over when I was 16, and she was very irritable and just started screaming at me. Um, I had like we had gone to get hot pot, and then I brought like I brought some to go,
Right. Yeah.
in like a little container. We had a hot pot date. We loved hot pot back then.
I'm
But
fucking dead. You did not bring a container to hot pot. I hate you.
no, no, no. I like they gave me like a to-go container.
Okay, I thought it was like those all you can eat hot pot. I'm just kind of
No,
like,
no,
I'm
no,
just
no.
gonna have unlimited
No, no,
fish
no.
balls in my Ziploc. And I was like, damn, Nate, you are adventurous. I fucking love it.
No, and then like I came home and like my mom was like, "Where'd you go?" And I was like, and I was like, "No, we just had food." And he's like, "She's like, did you bring me back any?" And I was like, no." I was like, "I have like this soup to go." So I was like, "If you want it, you can have it." And
Yeah.
then it like triggered her,
Oh.
and she screamed at me and told me that I was like treating her like a dog, and she didn't know that my boyfriend was like in the living room. But
Oh, she didn't know.
yeah, she didn't know. And I
Okay.
just like broke down and I saw how scared he looked.
Of course.
And I was like, what? And I was like, oh. Um, and I think other than that, the earliest I remember was like my 13th birthday. We had a party. And I've talked to her about this. She doesn't remember it.
Hmm.
My 13th birthday, my brother came to visit, and my brother is he didn't grow up with us. So I've only seen him probably like 6 or 7 times in my life. And he came to visit, and like we had like a small little like family birthday party, and she did not leave her bed the entire day, and she didn't want to see me the entire day. So she locked herself in the room.
Had she been already using substances at this point?
Yeah, yeah. Started
Um.
at 11. Yeah.
Okay. So prior to you turning 11, she was clean. I would guess.
It it's kind of difficult because she was always a partier.
Okay. So it's one of those things
Um,
where it might not have gotten that bad until you were 11, kind of deal.
yes, I
Okay.
mean there was definitely a turning point, and that's more of like her story than mine, you know?
Right, for sure.
Um, but when we also So what happened when I was 11 is that, well, what I told my therapist a while ago. I don't have this therapist anymore because I hated him.
Oh, well, I'm glad you got rid
I
of that.
he
But
was
you
he
had
started
to.
pu-
You
well,
had.
well I mean like I'm like okay with spirituality, but he started pulling tarot cards during my
Oh
session.
no, that is
I was like,
not a
really?
thing. No.
I was like, you're fired. Um, no. What I tell people all the time is that um, a source for trauma for her was the reason my brother grew up across the country. Um, Not the whole thing. So he was kidnapped formally from her.
I'm sorry. What?
Okay, so my aunt, my mom's sister, was like married to this man, and he like assaulted my mom. So, uh, which like she then had my brother, right? Um, but my aunt is kind of a awful person, and so is his dad. From what he has told me, I've never met this man. Um, but um, I was like what, like 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like he came to visit one day, and everyone's like, "This is your brother," and I was like, "Oh, who is this white man? Who's this white boy? That's my brother." And it's hard because like we're still getting to know each other to this day.
Right.
Like, yeah, I saw him like in December, and like I feel like that was the first time we had like an actual conversation.
Oh my
But
god.
so it was hard because like I would grow up and like I used to sleep with my mom, like in bed with her when I was a kid because I didn't like sleeping in my room. I didn't like being alone. So
Hmm.
I would like either sleep with my sisters or my mom. But my mom would always cry herself to sleep, and I'd be like, and she would always, she'd cry about like her missing son, and I'd be like, "Bestie, I'm right here. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? I'm your
Yeah.
only son."
Yeah. Oh my god.
You know. But when I was 11, so are your parents immigrants? Are you an immigrant?
Yes, I came here when I was 12, so I know what
Okay,
that's
okay,
like.
okay. So, but you're a Canadian now.
Yes, I'm Canadian.
Okay, so I, growing up as an immigrant, like in specifically like the Bay Area, California, there's always an assignment, like, because there's like, when I was growing up, there was a heavy immigrant population, right?
Yes.
Um, and there was always like assignments like, ask your parents your story, or if they're an immigrant, like, what did you think, like, how was their immigration like, and like, what was their immigration story? And so, like, I asked my mom, and she was like, I was 18 and I thought like the streets were paved with gold. And as when I turned 18, or like even as an adult now, if I was like an 18-year-old thinking that I was going to a country and being immediately wealthy and then that not being the case,
Right.
I'd kind of be like really heartbroken.
Yeah, it's like the rug being pulled from under because you had an expectation and people, and you get there,
Yeah.
it's like, this is not it. Like, no,
Even to this day, this is not it.
no,
I'm sorry.
no, it's truly not. Definitely
Right.
not.
Um, but it was hard. She didn't have a lot of friends, and the friends that she did have were like really big partiers, and I didn't know because I was too young, but
Right,
like
of course.
her bestie was so awful. So awful.
So for me, the thing is, it sounds and it looks like, and I know it is the case. Um, Not a lot of people are like you, Nate. I'm just gonna
Huh.
say that straight out the bat, and I say that in a good way because I don't know if you've had interactions with other people who had gone on and has had maybe not a similar experience to you growing up, but there are people who are so jaded by what they had gone through, with what their parents had put them through, that it's
Mm-hmm.
hard for them to understand why things were the way it were, and it's almost as if they mirror their parents' personalities in
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, because you know what, when parents always say like, oh, we're not going to change because it's how it was growing up for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for
Mm-hmm.
them it's like, when you tell them, look, your parents have had gone through things that you don't know about, and unfortunately
Mm-hmm.
they took it out on you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just understood what they had gone through, it might not, it's not going to change the past, but maybe moving forward, you can feel better about yourself knowing that, hey, you know what? All of these things were not actually done to me by choice almost, right? It was one of those things where it
Mm-hmm.
was like, it was a reaction to what was going on. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, they refuse to believe that, because they almost want to see their parents punished for what they had been put through. So I have
Yeah.
to say thank you, because a lot of people do not see it, especially the way that you do. And it's so unfortunate, because it becomes a case of fighting fire with fire. It's like, well, you made my life a living hell during these years. Have fun these next few years now that I've come into my own person. And they don't realize they themselves created the monsters that they have blamed their parents for.
Yeah. I think what I mean, I don't know if this is true. I hope it's true, but a lot of my friends say that I'm pretty self-aware when it comes to things like that. I used to not be. I'm not very socially aware though. But um but but that's something I learned early on, you know, as like a I always felt like I was like the prodigal son,
Hmm.
or I was like the only one who went to like college or whatever.
Right.
And I was the only boy, so there was a lot of pressure on that too. Um, but I had a lot more freedom because people are sexist. Um, uh, but
Unfortunately.
I learned early on, well, because like I was always like, like a wanderer. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see and experience a lot of things, and I still do. Um, but actually, that's tangential. Forget that. But I learned
Yeah.
early on that that we do. I like to relate things to music. I mean, as a musician, do you ever like not know how to articulate a thought and then you hear a song and you're
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, this is how I feel.
The song exactly embodies how it feels for me right now.
Um, and I remember listening to it's from an opera or like a musical, Candide, by Leonard Bernstein, which is based off of a book from Voltaire. And it's a satire on like being optimistic because like literally everybody's like getting their fucking insides torn out, but they're like everything's gonna be fine. Like that's how the book is. It's interesting.
Okay.
Um, but they made it into like a little opera, and there's a song called "Make Our Garden Grow," and I wrote about this somewhere in my blog, but um, the lyric that stood out to me is like, "We're neither pure nor wise nor good. We do the best we know."
Hmm.
And I heard that, and that was like a really important song to me in high school. Also, I just love the version with Kristen Chenoweth because I stan her. But
Now I'm gonna have to
um,
search that after.
and um, I heard that, and I was like, you know what? That really applies to everybody that I know, including your parents, because you think growing up that your parents are complete whole people.
Yes.
Like they're 100% done growing and being like they know everything, you know?
Yes.
And then you get to the age where you were your parents once, and I'm like, bitch, I'm a baby. I don't know shit. So
Yup.
like, I was
Yup.
like,
Oh
me
God.
having a child now? Goodbye.
That's what.
And so, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they didn't. like back then it was in the 90s. You don't have parenting classes.
Yeah.
You don't, like no like you don't get a person of color in the
N-
90s to read a parenting book. I don't think so,
Definitely
honey.
not. No.
That's not happening.
No.
But like um so they did the best they knew, and you
Yes.
can't really fault them for it. If you knew better, you would do better, and they just didn't know better,
Yep.
you know.
We were
Um
victims of circumstances, not of our
yeah,
parents.
actually that's also a line in the big song that Kristen
Oh,
Chenoweth sings.
well,
She says,
shit.
"Victimized by bitter circumstance."
I
But
must be psychic.
um, yeah. So um, that's what That's how I always looked at it. I was like, I can't really. I feel like I was. I'm a very empathetic person. I was a very empathetic
Right.
person. So I was like, you know, uh, it's hard. It's hard to say because I feel like, um, how far does the empathy go before it turns into like a martyr complex and I'm suffering?
I like that you say it like that, right? But I feel like, and I will say this like from experience from people who I've dealt with, awareness is probably the most painful, the most annoying, but also the most freeing thing that a person can attain, because that's actually going to be the ones serving as a barrier or a gate for you to know when or when not to cross that line. So for you to even be aware of, you know, how far can I take this empathy before it turns into this? I wouldn't worry so much if I were you, because it allows yourself and other people to know that you actually know exactly when to put the brakes on. I
Hmm.
do want to switch gears a little bit here.
Hmm.
Knowing that you have this much understanding over what your mom had gone through growing up, um, I know it doesn't change what you have been put through at all. Um, do you feel like those experiences growing up with a parental figure who, had an addiction problem, who, I mean, it's safe to say forgive me for asking. Um, I hope you weren't physically abused, were you?
No,
Yeah, like
no,
like
no,
palo doesn't count because I feel like it's a Filipino thing.
no,
It's like
no,
we
no,
get palo, like it's fine.
no, 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 no. It's
Okay,
it's it's uh no, no. I was not
okay,
physically abused.
cool. Um, Sorry, were you saying something?
Yeah, yeah. I forgot. I actually didn't answer your question. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm,
okay.
I'm sorry to go back to it, but
No,
I
no,
didn't
no,
answer your
no.
question when you said
Go
when
completely.
you said that you didn't if I saw or recognized anybody that was going through what I was doing or
Yes.
what I was experiencing, and I didn't.
Okay.
Um, I didn't. I saw people who were going through their own difficulties,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not similar or the same as mine.
Right.
Um, the I will tell you, the first time I felt seen and like it sounds stupid when I say it out loud to myself, but was in 2016. I was on the couch at my boyfriend's apartment, and we were watching Moonlight. Have you ever seen that movie?
Um. Yes. Uh. It was the Fuck. What was his name? He won an Oscar for it, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
It beat out La La Land.
I remember that.
But I remember watching Moonlight, and I had to pause to just literally sob because I had never seen that type of behavior from um, anybody outside of my mom.
Right.
Like his mom in that movie, I had not seen that type of behavior outside of what I had experienced, and I was like, this is actually my life.
Yeah.
Like,
Shit.
like it sounds stupid when I say that to people. I'm like, this is my life.
No.
But like the 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 conversations, the interactions, the asking for money, um, and in that movie, the main character Chiron, he finds kind of a chosen family in Janelle Monáe's character,
Yes.
and early on as a child, I was very smart. I was told I was smart, and that's what I did. I looked for any other sort of figures to kind of help me, and that's why I went into teaching initially, is because it was my teachers who, sort of like Matilda.
Right.
I was
Yes.
like, I'm not getting the nurturing and the what I need at home, so I have to like, I
Outsource,
have to be so I have
essentially,
to be
right?
somewhere elsewhere, and but it was important to me. I think for it to be an organic thing. So uh, there's there's no other way. So it was just my music teachers. They would drive me on the weekends to my auditions and
That's amazing.
um,
That is
give me
amazing.
life advice and stuff like that. And like being at home was awful during that time, especially if my dad was deployed. Being at home was awful. So I spent a lot of time in extracurricular activities. So I was in the marching band and all that other stuff. And it kept me busy and it was productive and you know, and I was surrounded by all my friends all the time.
I
And
do feel like I have to say this. I think you were blessed in terms of your resourcefulness. Because a lot of times, children, right, teens sometimes growing up, when they are put in a situation like that, they're not tactful enough to look for a way out. They
Mhm.
end up getting stuck. They end up getting, it's exactly the opposite of what you were doing. They'll feel like they can't do anything and they'll be miserable at home. And,
Mhm.
it's one of those things where I wish, but it's a personality thing. I wish more children were taught to be more
Mhm.
resourceful, to,
Mhm.
you know, I wish more children were encouraged to be more imaginative in a way because the kind I feel like it's weird. Okay, this is going to sound strange, and podcasters, fellow viewers and listeners, look, listen, I think you guys know what I'm trying to get at here. As a person in the arts, I feel like you had this much strategy growing up because you have that creativeness inside of you.
Mhm.
It's one of those things, kind of like when you say sometimes you don't know how you feel, but you find it in a song. And it's like
Mhm.
sometimes you don't know how you're going to end up surviving this kind of situation, so you find it elsewhere, and you did. And I just have to
Mhm.
commend you on that. And honestly, I wish that you're able to actually become a teacher
Mhm.
because of all
I
of
mean,
these things.
I stopped wanting to be a classroom teacher because I hate classroom teaching, and
And that's
no one
fine,
respects
but like just a
teachers. No one
teacher in
respects
general, right?
teachers. But yeah, I mean, but it's still the same to me. If I can impact one
Right.
person's life, in a positive way, then that's all that it matters to me.
Hmm.
And I think I do that best with music. So,
I love it.
um, um, yeah, and that's how I just feel.
No,
I
I
just,
think it's perfect. It's great. And thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Right. So as I was saying, I was kind of wanted to switch gears, and
mhm.
it's so funny. I completely forgot what I was going to say, but I had an idea of it. No, it's okay. It's okay. This is what happens, right? Like honestly, these episodes are never edited for this specific reason, right? I want it to feel as real and as raw as they come. Like
Mhm.
there's I allow large infinite margins of errors to happen because it's very human, and that's what we built this podcast on, right? It's getting people to realize like, hey, this is not really so much an interview as much as you just sharing your life with us. And that's kind of where I wanted to go. Um, for you, you were able to change what could have really chained you down. You were able to use your traumas as tools to propel you into a better future. Um, and it shows with how you carry yourself, how you talk about everything, with the choices that you've made. Um, my one thing is that I know your mom had gone sober. Am I correct?
I believe so. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
It's hard to know because I try not to be too involved.
Right.
Um, um, but yeah, the past couple of years, maybe starting 2019, 2019 was like it was really bad. She was suffering through psychosis.
Okay.
Um, she was losing touch with reality very heavily. Imagining things, seeing things. Um, very paranoid. Which didn't help because like now she just like smokes a lot of weed. Um, and it's just yeah, but I would say for the most part, yeah, she's sober from the meth. Yeah.
Um, if I may ask, are these kind of like remnants, like her psychosis or like the mental health issues that she's now facing, are these remnants of her drug use from the past, or are these completely
Yeah.
unrelated to it?
So the doctor said, yeah, it's probably like there's some definite brain damage.
Okay.
Um, and I think what really set her over was menopause.
Okay.
So that and like, recovery in combination with menopause and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of, yeah, trauma, unaddressed trauma for her, you know. It's not enough that like I'm addressing it for myself, but for her as well. So, um, my sister is in charge. Well, the past couple of years, I'm in charge of her psychiatric appointments. My sister's in charge of her therapy appointments. I don't know
Mm.
if she still goes to her therapy appointments. Um, she doesn't really have to go to psychiatric appointments regularly anymore.
Oh,
So,
that's good. Um,
yeah.
like with that being said, I just wanted to ask that because it seems to me that like you now have to take care of her, essentially.
I mean, yeah, because my dad is not really knowledgeable about things of that nature.
Hmm.
It's very it's hard because he's like an enabler.
Okay.
So yeah,
And
he's like a ride or die for her. So it's
oh my God.
but
I mean, I want
but
to find
doesn't know
true
how
love like that
to.
for me. Like silver linings, I guess. Like,
No, but they fight a lot, so
okay,
it's just hard because most of her like anger and stuff she takes out on him.
okay.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the next point that I have. Um, I just want to know, how are you in terms of dealing with this, knowing that you have to do this?
It's hard. I try not to think about it because like there's no other life that I could live. Like
Yeah.
again, it's the circumstances that I'm under. Um, I'll say that it hasn't been that easy because um, it's hard to get through to her. My therapist said that she's very narcissistic, um, and she kind of has the emotional maturity of a teenager.
Okay.
Right, because if you're heavily traumatized as a teenager, you kind of don't grow out of that
No,
if it goes unaddressed, yeah.
you're right.
Um, and I think that's when she had like my brother. So, mm. But I don't know how I cope with it. I'm honestly in a state of coping because I still live with her, and I don't know. I won't soon, maybe, hopefully. But
But the reason I asked is because we always say to people, in order to love other people, we gotta love ourselves. In order to care for other people, we gotta care for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying you're not caring for yourself. It's not about that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, it comes off like as a friend, like it's a little bit of a concern knowing that you have a huge responsibility on your plate, but add that to the fact that the kind of responsibility that you have is owed towards a person
Mm-hmm.
with whom, you know, had given you the kinds of traumas that you face right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine, because I got lucky that I was able to leave home. I got lucky that I was able to
Mm-hmm.
run when I could and gather the
Mm-hmm.
pieces and become my own person through my own volition, be able to
Mm-hmm.
separate myself from that kind of environment, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I put myself in your shoes and I put myself in a position where what would have happened if I did not move out?
Mm-hmm.
How would
I
I
mean,
be as a person now?
I didn't. I was gone for 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived on my own for 8 years.
Do you feel
Um,
like that could have helped with how you're processing things now around her, knowing that you have to take care of her? I mean, I know it's not like a 24/7 thing, but
yeah, yeah, no,
still.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, I don't have to
Hmm.
anymore. I mean, I haven't done it in a while because like I don't
Okay.
think she makes any progress. But like my my sister and dad probably can have it covered, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, my sister kind of raised us. She's
Okay.
older, so
Okay.
um, so she's kind of, and she also has kids of her own, so she has that sort of motherly instinct to kind of do that. I try not to put so much pressure on her though, because she is quite busy.
For sure.
But yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
She actually, it's funny. Sorry, I'm like talking on a tangent again.
no. Please do.
It's funny because like, because growing up, like it was such an age. Because I'm the youngest, right?
Right.
I have my sisters are 2 years and 5 years older than me. Is that correct? Yeah. And it's just my eldest sister, like would she like raised us right until like I think she was 16, and then she emancipated. And I didn't know why. I just came
Wow.
home one day and she was gone.
And you're just kind of like, nope, I'm out of here. Like,
She
peace.
she lived she lived with my grandma.
Okay. 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 Okay.
She lived
Okay.
with my grandma. But I was like, oh, okay, that's weird.
Not the
Um,
oh, okay, that's weird.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, it's just like I the thing is, I think it's kind of a great thing and a bad thing about me is that I
Hmm.
accept things as they happen.
I think that's
Like,
more of a great thing. I don't really think that's a bad thing, to be honest
well,
with
because
you.
I was like, okay, she's gone, so what now?
You move on, right? You gotta. This is what I mean, right? It's like I really feel like you were really blessed with having that kind of mindset because it is so hard for people to move on with their lives. And for you, I do have to kind of ask though, this kind of thinking is
Hmm.
usually prevalent for those who are always on survival mode.
Hmm.
And I just want to kind of pick your brain. Um, when you are like when you have accepted that you have to go and like move on and stuff like that, right? Um,
Hmm.
initially, what is the feeling for you? Like emotions that arises, and how long do they stay for?
Well, it really depends because what's I'm really I was gonna say down bad, but you it's really bad when like I can't get past something, you know?
Yes.
Um, but I feel like I feel the my face gets flushed, and if I'm put into a state of fight or flight, the
Okay.
adrenaline comes in. But like,
Yes.
um, that's when I really have to like sit and think and talk. with somebody else if I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's really weird because I was criticized for that kind of thing a lot when I was a kid. My dad just said that I lacked a sense of urgency.
And look at you now. It's
He would get
like,
so mad at me because he's like, "You're late for school," and I was like, "That's different." But but
yeah, I guess physically it's like not really how it is
I mean,
mentally.
but like, but like, what is? I mean, it. I think it's healthy to express your emotion. But like, if I get into a car accident or something, I'm not gonna stand there and yell at the person for 20 minutes.
For sure.
I don't think like that's gonna get me anywhere.
It just you just wasted 20 minutes essentially.
I mean, but you know, like it's valid if you guys, if like if people want to be angry, like that's your feelings are totally valid. But for
Mm.
me, I'm just like, okay, well, you crashed into my car. What do we do now so I can like go on with my day?
And I guess, like speaking on that, right? What makes you think you
It-
can't be angry and think of what to do next at
I
the
just
same
think,
time?
I think for me, also in the back of my mind, it's like there are worse things that have happened to me.
Mm.
Like if I made it out alive, that's fine. I mean, knock on wood, but like I've been in a lot of car accidents.
Oh my god, Nate, what?
I've spun out on the freeway like twice and made it
What?
out alive. It's yeah, it's crazy. Um,
So it's like,
mm,
no wonder you can move on easily.
I mean, I don't know if anybody believes in astrology, but I, but I am apparently allegedly the luckiest sign. So
What is your
there's that.
sign?
Sagittarius.
A Sagittarius, okay.
But yeah. So you know when things like that happen, um, and I think also being a musician, it kind of also is one of those things. Like there's a lot of disappointment in being an artist, I think, especially if you're going through processes of auditioning.
Right. Oh god. Oh god.
It's like I didn't get this, so I'm not gonna sit there and be like, it's the mindset of like prepare for the like like expect prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of like where I'm at all the time. Um, Girl, even in my league games, I'm like, oh, I died. All right, let's go in.
A great mindset, I think. And I want to just kind of speak on this. I think you said it best when you said it kind of like and it's funny that I'm using it as an analogy now because it's a real thing that you just spoke about, that you have been through much worse. So you feel like, when these things do happen, it's easy for you to just kind of like, okay, I gotta move on because I've been through a lot worse, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, there's so much. I mean, like I know it like this conversation right now that we're having, like it's very surface level. I
mhm.
think for me, it might I don't know if it feels deep for anybody, for anybody listening, but like it's very surface level for me. There are other things that like happened in in this span of time in this relationship that I have with my mother that is just like it's a lot. Like so there sometimes there were like people in my bed, like random people that I've never met. Just like I'm like, who's and so I had to like sleep on the couch. I'm like, who are these strangers? Or um going to uh random deals as a child, like um uh that's when I know I'm like really, really in it because like I really can't control my reactions and there are some things that do trigger me. They're very they're yeah. Yeah, and those are the things that I realized recently. I don't know if you watch Euphoria, but
I know,
um,
like, I have a lot of people who watch Euphoria. Like, I know a lot of
well,
friends who do.
the latest episode, there was this really spoiler alert. I'm sorry, everybody, if you haven't watched it, but like there's a great scene with Zendaya, and she is really going through withdrawal, and she is having a very intense altercation with her mother. Um, Rue. Uh, um, and I felt bad because I do watch parties like with my friends,
Right.
and I'm the one streaming it. But like, um, I had to pause it because I could not. I was immediately triggered and started
Right.
sobbing because that I hardly see that. I don't seek out this type of media or whatever, but like I hardly see that in my real life or in other places. But that was something that I've had, and I have recordings of it, of me having that type of altercation because I had to record it to send it to the doctors
Right.
to prove that we weren't like making things up because
Yes.
in front of the
For
doctors my
sure.
mom's like a regular person.
Of course.
So um yeah, and like it's really funny because I haven't gone back to that recording or anything, but like I remember I was actually I don't think people could imagine me screaming at somebody
Yeah, you seem like a
for
very
their
calm individual, so it would be
but like
very
you know at that time in this recording I was screaming. I was violent and it's scary. It's scary and like that's behavior that like when I saw that episode the last time I had seen that behavior exhibited was in myself and I was like immediately transported back to that. So
right. Well, I do just want to touch upon that when you say, like everything that we've talked about has been surface level for you. And for all of the listeners right now and all the people that are watching, I want y'all to know, like, it's not so much Nate saying that what you're going through is not important, or that, like, again, what I said, like, everyone's experiences are different from each other's. But I think if that comment proved anything, it's that for most of us, after hearing, almost an hour now into this, hearing your experiences with your mum, it's very. I'm trying to find the right words to say because we can only imagine the other side of it that you have gone through that made you deem every single experience you described to us as surface level. For most of us, these are actually triggers. For most of us,
yeah.
it's kind of like what you say, right? Like, it's so
I'm sorry,
rare
is
for
there
you.
is there a content warning on your stream or anything?
You know what? It's 18 plus every time anyway. Like, it's mature content things every
Okay.
time. It's
I
totally
feel
cool.
yeah. I'm really
This is,
sorry if
no,
anybody
don't ever
yeah.
be sorry. This is what the podcast is for, right? But I kind of just wanted to paint a picture that even for you, and I do have to ask, it's almost a blessing and a curse. I know all this time I'm saying you're blessed, you're blessed, you're blessed, you're blessed. But
Mhm.
I feel like you're only blessed because these experiences that you have been through are rarely covered by the media or is rarely seen. Therefore, triggers that you might see on social media or everywhere you go is very scarce, right? But
Mhm.
when they do come up, just like what you said, right? Like what this was the last, like the latest episode,
Mhm.
right? And it still elicited that kind of response from you.
Yeah.
And so my next question is, when those things do happen and it brings you into that place where you had to stop things and just gather yourself, how does that, aside from the whole anxiety, how does it make you feel after knowing that had had just that kind of response to it?
It's interesting because obviously I have like a visceral response and I break down and start sobbing and then I reflect. I'm a very reflective person. I'm very introspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's interesting because I feel I'm like, oh, that's my media representation.
Oh God, not that.
No, but it's comforting, and I mean it at a certain after a certain point, after the raw emotion and the initial triggering, it's comforting to know that my experience ha- it may not be universal, but I'm not the only one,
Right.
and which is really sad to say because oh boy, bless everybody else who is going through that, you know, but um. Baby steps. That's all I can take away from that. Um, yeah. And then, I usually it's like kind of like therapize. Is that a word? But
Let's make
um,
it a word. Why not?
my myself by putting it into like my work. I write a lot.
Right.
Um, I write a lot of like prose and like diary entries, and I journal a lot. Um, so that's where that goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a strategy for it. You have an outlet for these
Yeah.
things.
And
Right.
my closest friends are they're privy to everything that happens in my life. So I let them know if I call them my friends. I feel like I have the best friends ever. They're the best people I know. Um and I can talk to them if I need to. And I always give them the option of like if you don't have space for this right now, just like let me know.
Right.
But because yeah, I don't want to like trauma dump or anything on people.
No, for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. I think, you know, it comes hand in hand with your personality, right? Um, it's, how do I say this? Talking to somebody like you about hard hitting topics like these, it's very, it's very enlightening. It's very eye opening because I can almost relate your experiences towards other people who have been through different types of traumas. And it's really true. Having been through therapy, and my psychotherapist telling me that anytime we are faced with a traumatic experience growing up, we have two choices. And those two choices is what is going to set what's going to set up how our lives are going to look in the future. And the two choices are pertaining to roles that we are going to take up after a traumatic experience. You either take the role of the victim or you take the role of a survivor. And that is not to take away from people who've been victimized, who feel that they are a victim, because you are, and rightly so. But for a lot of people, they end up being stuck in that loop.
Hmm.
And it's hard for them to explain, it's hard for them to help other people understand their plight because they feel that they are still going through that same traumatic experience every day.
Hmm.
And it's always crossed my mind that maybe there's a way in which those people who have assumed the role of survivors can help the people who have assumed the roles of victims to understand that, hey, we are actually the same person. We are the same people.
Hmm.
I still carry that burden. I still carry that weight of being victimized as well. But
Hmm.
you don't need to let that dictate what the rest of your life looks like.
Hmm.
And I think in some ways, you keep on saying, which I actually really love, that you just want to change at least one person. You know, you want to help at least one person. Like if you're able to do that, you'd be happy. And I think you're already doing that, and I think it's amazing. And I just want to say thank you for that, because you might not know it, right? You might not know, but I feel like when you do have these interactions with other people who might not have the same experiences that you have gone through, there is a way that you talk that allows people to feel safe and comfortable and feel like you're not patronizing me for my experiences, but you're just lending a helping hand to help me get up from here. And it's a very different thing.
Hmm.
And I just kind of wanted to say that before I forget, because I fucking forget this shit. Like, I'll think about it and then I'm like, wait, was I guess it wasn't Nate again? But
Yeah.
I hope that I hope that when you have those triggering episodes or those traumatic responses to the triggers, actually, I do have to ask, are you able to explain when people ask what just happened? Or do you normally just kind of say, no, 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 it's okay, I'll be fine, just a response to something traumatic, I'll be okay?
Both.
Both.
Depends on who
Who
is
it is.
around me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't want to, again, you don't want to trauma dump or anything, but like, for that moment in time, like, it was very obvious, like, this is a traumatic experience for me, so can we pause?
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Um, but if I don't know them, I wouldn't want to, I just feel like,
No, for sure.
yeah, I'll
It's
let them
like
know
one of
that,
those things where it's like, like, I don't know you and I don't know if you're ready for this kind of thing,
hmm.
right?
Yeah,
See, you're
and it's
still so
interesting.
mindful.
I think it's interesting that you talk about like the dichotomy of victim and survivor too, because like I'm always like, why not both?
Because
Why not both? And
we
let's
are
and let's
both.
grow from there. Yeah,
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 we
yeah.
are both. I wanted to say that because for a lot of people, they put this negative connotation on what a victim is like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, it's almost as if, like what you say, like you can't be both, right? It's like, I'm sorry. By just assuming that, oh, okay, I, how am I going to do this? How am I going to say this? So for me, um, this is going to be kind of weird. I hope it doesn't weird y'all out. Um, like having been, like I've been sexually assaulted multiple times.
Mm.
And the way that I talk about it, makes people, it always allows, or it always makes people think like, like, oh wow, you're a survivor. Because of the way that
Mm-hmm.
I carry myself, because of the way that I am able to speak about those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like, I don't know how I feel about that, because yes, I did survive, but I am still a victim, right? The only thing that I'm not, like, it's because I'm not exhibiting what that I feel like I'm afraid to talk about it. You know what I mean, right? That it's like, it's almost as if they
Right, right,
attach it to your personality.
right, right. And like it's hard. It's hard because you don't want to. Like, I'm not gonna fault anybody for reacting the way that they do in response to like their trauma, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna dictate how you should be responding to your trauma because that's uncontrollable.
Yes.
Um, but it is difficult, and I understand what you mean because I am also in that like in that category of the sexual assault. So it's just like, you know, what do you do?
Yeah, it's like,
It's
but
hard.
that's why, when my therapist told me about the whole victim slash survivor role, it wasn't
Yeah.
even it's just to allow a person to see that there is always a way to not be stuck in your mind, because that's what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our biggest, you know, big bad villain is actually ourselves. It's
Mm-hmm.
what our mind allows us to think of how we are and who we are. Now, we don't realize other people will always see us as something better. So it's kind of like the difference between that. But I still, for me, I am with you in a sense that you can be both because you are both, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think talking about your experiences, that's exactly what you've been proving. Like, yes, I have these things that had happened to me, and yes, I still carry the weight of what has happened to me, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
reminders, like triggers of what has
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. But look at how I want to change people's mindsets who have also gone through the same things that I have. And I think that is the perfect example of you describing what that dual role could look like. And I think you embody that perfectly.
Thank you.
Of course. You
I
you
think
are,
as humans, people forget like humans are very complex, right? And I think people joke that they're like, I contain multitudes, but you do contain multitudes. Um, you just really gotta remind yourself and tap into that because sometimes people really, really will focus on one facet
yes.
of their lives or stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Exactly. Sorry. Was
really
choked
get stuck
on
in one
water.
dimension. So yeah.
Yeah, and that is oh I think that is always the most difficult thing. And that is always the scariest thing. Like we
Hmm.
don't realize it's been 6 years that I've been living in this dimension. And it's like great. Like
Yeah,
yikes.
yeah.
And then when you feel like you're ready to take on the world, you're like, time had passed so much, and then you can't help but think, what did I do these past 6 years? And then it brings you back to what had
Hmm.
happened, right? And I think that's something that we do need to be mindful of. And this is where I am at with our conversation,
Hmm.
because I, for me, past the surface level stuff that we've talked about, the really deep traumas that your mother had left with you still allows you to function the way that you do now. Do you think that if these things did not happen to you, you would still be the same person you are now with the same kind of compassion and empathy, not just for yourself, but for the world and for your parents?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's hard.
Right.
Um, it's it's hard because over time, I would wait for her to come back and be who she was before. Um, and she would always come back, and then over time it became less and less frequent.
Right.
And then it's hard to see someone that you hardly recognized. Um, and it's still not 100% the same, but I think in my mindset, like everybody grows or becomes who they're becoming. So she's not going to be the person who she was now than when I was 10.
Right.
Um, and I don't think either of those versions are the best version of her. So
It's true.
um, we just have to keep going forward and keep striving for becoming who you're becoming, and
I know.
hopefully it is the best version. Um,
But I feel
I
that
oh
because
sorry.
no, because it's almost as if, like, the way that you said that just now, it's it's reminding me, or it's reminiscent of people who, looking back, these are the times that they missed with somebody that they love the most, that they wish they could go back to. But as the better version of that person. And it's almost as if realizing that that's impossible. And then it's like, well, fuck. Like that chance had passed. And we have to kind of start off with this new thing, but you're still processing everything that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
I just, oh man. I'd give you a hug if I was there right now. Can I just say?
Of course.
Oh man.
I'd be like,
Right? It's kind of like, there, you're gonna make me cry. Oh, it
no,
is.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there are definitely events that like were like the turning point for me and for her. And um it's just hard. There's so many things. There's so many things like um suicide attempts and murders and stuff like that. So it's just
I'm sorry,
crazy.
murders?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a
I mean, yeah, you don't have
it's
to talk about it if you don't want to. Don't worry. Like, I was
no,
just,
no,
I'm
no, 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 no.
just,
It's no, no, no. It's just okay. So I, for me, this is like I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but because of my limited perspective, I think that's like what kind of shifted was that when I was telling you about like the immigration and like moving to America and stuff like
right,
that, she didn't have any friends.
right.
You know, she was a seamstress and it was hard for her to find work. She was laid off so many times, you know, in the recession and stuff. And then she found work at like some sort of like silicon like uh assembly line sort of
Mm.
thing. And then she became like really good friends with this woman who was like the sweetest lady ever. Sweetest lady. She was so nice. Her name was Auntie Zenny, I remember. um and and her kids went to school with me.
Okay.
And like, you know, like my mom would like try to force us to be friends and like I like sleep over.
Yeah.
Um and then one day she was murdered by her husband.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And then like I think that was just like the catalyst that kind of set everything off. Like, you know,
Right.
no money, no family, 16 in the middle of Miami.
No,
Sorry.
not
Sorry to
Iggy.
trivialize. I'm sorry. But you know
I've
what I
been
mean?
up
Like
all
it's just like
night
I'm so sorry.
working on math.
But
Sorry. You're gonna make me
you know
rap.
what I mean?
Yes. No,
It's
definitely.
kind of it's got like if I had to imagine that, it was awful. But I only imagined it from like a secondhand experience. And then I remember like we couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe it. So we went to her house and looked in the window and in the kitchen there was blood everywhere.
Oh my god.
So it's crazy. I still remember it. I was like, oh wow. Every time I pass by that house too, I'm like,
Well, of course. It's a, especially being associated with that person, knowing that person, you know.
yeah, she was so sweet.
And I feel like,
Better than any of the other friends that she've had. So,
I remember you hating her best friend, so, you know.
yeah.
But what I'm saying, what I want to say is, you know so much about the history of your mother. And I
Hmm.
really truly feel like this is exactly why, when you talk about the traumas you've been put through, you're so understanding of it. And
Hmm.
I just, I can't help but think of the people who really truly hate their parents for some of the
Hmm.
things, right? Because it's like, I feel like we, it's true. Everybody was born with good intentions, you know? Like, everybody was born, like, as a child, like, we adapt to the environments that we grew up in.
Hmm.
Um, Aside from your mother and knowing what was going on through your mother, you said that your sister had essentially raised you guys.
Hmm.
Do you feel like that had a hand in how you were able to perceive what your family was going through?
It's hard to say. I mean, I kind of I knew there was something unusual about us because like at holidays, the thing is she would go missing weeks at a time, days, months, and we wouldn't know who she was, you know. Um, Payphones, out of all things, are very triggering for me because she used to call from them.
Oh my god.
Um, and I'd be like, "Are you coming home?"
Yeah.
Um, but uh, um, you know, Christmas and she's not there. You're like, "Oh, she's with our other grandma. I don't know, did
Right.
something else." So it was kind of like it was rough, having to make a lot of excuses, um, just to appear normal.
Right. Like nothing had happened. It's kind of like, oh hey, I'm back
Yeah,
from a year ago. Like, what's up,
yeah,
son? Missed ya? And you're like, what the fuck?
yeah. So there's just a whirlwind of stuff
No,
that I've yet to like every now and then like something gets like uncovered in my brain and I'm like, oh, I
that
remember
just
this. So
happened.
then yeah, so then I write it down or like I've always had this idea of like writing a book. So I
I
have so
think, I
many
mean,
scattered
you have
journals.
a great, you have great material for for a nonfiction based on, like true story kind of things, and turn it into a fictional. And unfortunately, I say fortunately and unfortunately, I always, you know what, when we try to look at the silver linings of growing up with traumatic experiences, this is always, it's almost as if the universe designed our lives to be this way so that we can create, in art form, recreate
Mm.
our experiences and make bank off it. Because you know what? It's like, you know what? Y'all fucking suffered all these years. Here you go. There's your own motherfucking movie franchise based on that character. Bam. You're set for the rest of your life. That's how I like to see.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't I don't know, it's hard. I try not to do anything just specifically for like the money, but most of the times when I like create art, it's when it's based off of like my
Right.
lived experience, it's just so I can get it out and it's cathartic.
For sure.
Um, but if anybody wants to pay me for it, then
Like, hey,
be
I'm
my
not
guest.
not going to fucking say
But if
no.
anybody's out there listening, just like, I don't know, I was gonna say something, never mind. Never mind.
Say it. Oh, say it. Come on, please. Like
Well, if
the
anybody out
podcast.
there's listening, I have pretty nice feet.
Oh no. But oh yes. All right, you heard it here first. I'm breaking down the breakdown. We have Boy Wonder Nate selling feet. His socials will be at the end of the
Oh my
episode.
god.
I'm
Oh my
dead. You are so silly. But just kind of dialing it back down to where we
Mhm.
were. I don't want to. What am I gonna say? Like first of all, I want to thank you for coming on
Mhm.
here and talking about those things. Um, I was a little worried initially, only because, well, first of all, okay. So here's a terrible thing about me, guys. When I interview people, I actually don't ask beforehand exactly what went on. I asked them, what do you want to talk about? Okay. And then we just kind of, I am on this journey with all of y'all at the same fucking time. So I truly don't know what
Mhm.
the hell is going to be said, right? And I was worried because I thought I was going to end up being a mess. Like for me, like mother stuff is very sensitive to me because of what I have been
Mhm.
through. But this is exactly why I wanted to bring you on, Nate. Especially after what you told me. And the only thing that I actually really gathered from this interview is, well, first of all, yes, you, like, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, what you have been through. I
No,
truly wouldn't.
never.
Like, no offense.
And
It's just,
no, no,
it's
no, no,
just,
no, no. Exactly.
yeah.
I talk to my sister all the time because she's, a mother,
Yeah.
and I said like, I texted her. I was like, I was watching a show, and the single mom was like, the best part of being a parent is watching somebody get raised better than you are, than you have been raised.
Right.
And I was like, is that true for you? Because I'm not a parent. And she was like, that's every day I look at my kids and I'm like, you're not living the life that I
That I
had when
had,
I,
yeah. I
yeah, so.
always, I always think, like, I'm sorry I keep going back to these people, but it always makes me wonder what makes them want to impart the same kind of pain to their children the way their parents had. Because I feel like a lot of people end up being like that because they can't
Hmm.
take their frustrations out on their parents. They end up taking it out on their children, and it is just fucking wild.
It's brutal. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, sorry. Here I'm like thinking about, oh my god, the poor somebody thinking the children. No, but
Hmm.
but I'm glad to, yeah, to really be able to talk about this and see that despite all of that, I feel like it really did make you into this person, right? And I can't wait. Are you planning on having kids one day?
I don't
Do
know.
you want to? I always ask
I
this. Do you
used to
want to?
want to, but then
Okay.
like at the state of like how everything is, I'm not sure anyone deserves to be here and living under this
Like with you?
crazy time.
Oh,
No,
you
no,
mean
no,
like
just
just
like
in general, like this universe?
yeah, like
Okay,
like climate change and all that nonsense.
right.
It worries me, but
No, I feel that. I truly feel that. For me, I wanted to have kids because I want to raise.
hmm
Hopefully, I can influence my kids to be better individuals. It's always hard, You
yes,
really never know how a kid's gonna turn out. Um,
yeah,
but that's the only reason why I want to have a lot of kids is because I feel like it does come with, you know, it comes with the parenting. When you have
hmm
kids out there promoting love, everybody, all the kids end up learning from each other.
hmm
If you're out here promoting hate, oh shit, you're breeding, like this is how bullies are made, right? This is how like those groups are made, how mean girls kind of groups are made, right? And I want to be able to have
hmm
children so that it wouldn't be like that.
hmm
Here I am talking about
Well,
kids again.
yeah, for me, it's more of it's like a light want, but it's not necessarily a need.
I need,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that.
it's like um, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard, and like I think what a lot of people, growing up, it's like again, it's so complicated. Everything's very black and white. Love, hate, and like all that stuff. When you become like our age, it's like I don't think people like there are definitely outliers, like they're
Yes.
definitely extreme. Like you're a murderer, like you're something like that. But like the average person, I feel like is neither good nor bad.
No.
They just like
It
everybody
lies within the
makes
choices that they make,
yeah.
you know? It truly does. Um, yeah,
I
it's
wish I had my
scary.
Hannah Montana pen. She thinks nobody's perfect. It's like I don't know where that pen went. But anyway,
Wait, Nate, how old are you again?
30.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Wait,
I
wait.
thought you were
Why?
way younger.
What? What do you mean?
I thought you were like 25.
Mm-mm,
I'm
mm-mm.
sorry, podcast is probably like, no way. Oh wait, I can't see his face. Sorry, guys. There's a
No.
video component here. If you guys want to watch it on YouTube, it's also going to be on YouTube.
Don't I look like your grandpa?
No, you look great. What are you talking about? You look young. Damn. Okay. No wonder you said our age. I was just like, our age. The fuck are you talking about? I'm ancient.
Ancient.
Girl, I'm
Sharima. No.
Shariba. He's also an amazing League player, guys. Please add him. Now it makes sense that your name is Obo. I was kind of like, why is your name Obo on League?
I'm a professional elbow
Yeah,
player.
I didn't know that. And I was like, this is so random. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Although I'm professional by work and not by skill. So just so you know, I
If
don't
you
think I'm a
got
great
paid for
player.
it, you're a pro.
Exactly.
Okay? That's how I
Exactly.
see it. All right. Well, I don't want to, prolong this because I feel like I
No, I'm
don't want
hungry.
to.
I true.
No, like I mean no, it's great. It's amazing. I want to keep going and talk about like more
No, I know.
stuff.
I love talking
Yeah,
with
and
you.
we will have you on again next time, but I feel like this is a great way to end it because it ended on such a positive note. It's
Hmm.
weird because the things that we talked about today is actually can be categorized as extremely heavy.
Hmm.
All the talks of trauma and the drug abuse and that random murder mystery thing that happened.
Well, I
Uh,
didn't want to come. I didn't want to come here and bring people down. Like that's not.
but
You know.
but
Yeah.
you didn't, right? But the thing is, Nate, like, and the next time you do come here, I don't want you to feel like you have to mask things. I know you didn't, but I feel like we skirted around several conversations. I mean,
Mm.
it was great the way we did it because it's still very organic. You still were able to tell your story. But I hope the next time that you do come here, hopefully you feel a bit more comfortable around me. Um,
Oh
and I
yeah,
want you
I'm
to,
definitely comfortable around you.
awesome, perfect. Then because you know what it is, it's not about bringing other people down. Like you have no idea how your experiences that you shared today has already helped at least 3 or 4 people out there by listening
Mm.
to this. There are so many people who don't talk about what's going on behind closed doors within their homes, within their families, within their parents, that may
Hmm.
have a similar experience that you have had. And it's kind of like what you said. When you watch Moonlight, when you watch that episode of Euphoria, and that was the only point of, like, oh my god, this is a thing. Yet those two, and I know Moonlight was based on a true story, right? So, but there's a difference between hearing it straight from the horse's mouth, straight from somebody who actually had gone through it, and seeing where you are and seeing how you conduct yourself and seeing the trajectory of your future being made here. It gives so much hope. And there is not any, like, there's not a single ounce of sad, traumatizing stories that you can tell that will bring anybody down. Because
Hmm.
your lived experiences and the way that you had allowed yourself to learn from it and move forward
Hmm.
serves as, you know, probably one of the brightest things that anyone can ever see, especially for people who have gone through those things. And I hope you know that.
Thank you.
No, of course. But Nate's so right, guys. We are going to end now. Thank you so much for being here, Nate. Any last words, Nate?
Yes, I think something I try to live by, and I tell myself often, is and I think it's also great advice for other people, is that if you can make someone's day or turn someone's day around at of little or no cost to you, then why not do it?
I love that.
Yeah.
I
So
love that.
yeah, and nothing's inconvenient if you think of things that way. Like, girl, I'm out here sending Valentines. Hold on, let me go rewrite some of them. I'm going to the post office later, so. But you know what I mean? It just, I don't know. It's just if you, I don't
No, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. It's like it's free. you know? Like who doesn't like helping people, right? Well,
know.
I can think of a few people, but not associated with those fucking people. But yes, guys, thank you again, Nate, for being here. Nate, I want you to hold on and hang in there because then we are going to go to chat right after this. But this does end
Okay.
this episode of Breaking Down the Breakdown. Thank you so much for listening. All of y'all, always remember one thing, please. Please always be kind and compassionate to other people that you come across because you never know exactly what they're going through. You never know the things that they have gone through. And kindness is always the answer. This is Steven Diego. I will see y'all next time. This has been Boy Wonder Nate on Twitch as well. If you have any questions for Nate or anything like that, please email me at stevendiego@hotmail.com for Breaking Around Breakdown. If you want to be a guest on the show, please email me and let me know. I would love to have y'all talk about your life stories and just be your silly goddamn selves. I will see y'all later. Goodbye.